Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Knitting Pickle Podcast. My name is Laura and this is a podcast all about knitting. If you've not seen one of my videos before, hello and welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, of course, thank you as always for watching. It is truly an honour to have you. A little bit about me before we start. As I said, my name is Laura. I am a mother of 2 and I live in the Midlands in the UK with my children and my husband. We have just got to the end of a fairly large house renovation and life is finally starting to get back to normal. My life has been in chaos for the past 6 months and I was really starting to get quite sick of it. But the past few weeks have been a lot more chill. We still have quite a lot of work to do, but it's all cosmetic now and it's all stuff that we can do ourselves. So I think we're probably going to have maybe 1 or 2 more visits from the builders and from the plumber to finish off the bathroom, but that's it. So I'm feeling good at the moment. I'm feeling happy, positive, motivated. I've had a couple of low spells recently just because of life, but things are on the up. The one thing I will say that's getting me down at the moment, and don't hate me, is the weather. I am not a summer person. I hate being too hot. I hate that it's really hard to cool down. Give me spring and autumn all year round. Even a bit of winter, I don't mind because I'm such a homebody, bit of an introvert. So cozying up at home is more my kind of thing. I suppose if I lived maybe by the beach or somewhere that had aircon all the time, I might enjoy summer a little bit more. But in general, it's just not really my cup of tea. So I was hoping to have a summer knit to show you today, or more a summer knit to wear, because I do have a summer knit to show you, but I can't wear it. And there'll be more about that later on. So I'm not wearing a hand knit today. However, what I am wearing is handmade. It's not handmade by me. I am not yet a seamstress. It's on my list. But this top was made by my wonderful mother. I've spoken about my mum and her sewing a few times before, and I've got a little bit more to show you from her later on. But for now, this is a summer cotton blouse that she made for me. I chose this fabric, however, I didn't choose it for this top. I chose it for something for my daughter, which I will show you here. My mum made this for my 2-year-old daughter. She showed me the pattern and asked me to pick some fabric, and this is what I chose, and I absolutely love it. And when she showed it to me, obviously, I thought it was amazing, but what I didn't know was that she'd made a matching one for me. It's not the same pattern. I think this pattern was free in a magazine, but this is a pattern that you can buy, and it also comes as a dress, so I will link that below. And it also comes with a little pattern for a little miniature matching handbag, so it's just absolutely adorable. And my daughter wore this on her birthday, so I wore my matching one too. I'm not sure if I've got a picture of us both in it. If I do, I'll insert it. If not, apologies. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what I'm wearing today. So it may not be knitted, but it is at least handmade. It's one of my favourite things to wear in the summer because it's super loose. I don't like tight fitting clothes in the summer. Makes things even worse for me. So floaty, light, cottony, linen-y things are much more up my street. So this is bang on. So I've got 2 finished objects to show you today. A kind of finished object, but not, and a whip. And we also have some acquisitions this week, so stay tuned for that. So grab yourself a drink. If you can stand it, grab your knitting, if it's possible at all for you to knit in the weather that you're in at the moment. For me, it's been quite difficult to knit this past week. Last week wasn't so bad, and you'll see that I had quite a productive week last week. But this week I haven't been working on as much as I would have liked. So maybe a slightly shorter one on the projects this time, but I do have some acquisitions and I do have some designers to share with you this week, as we were discussing last week. So let's get on with it, shall we? The first finished object is something you have seen before. I've shown it in a few podcasts, but it's finally finished, and it is my Felix. This is the Felix sweater by Savory Knitting. Also, her name is Amy Christophers, but she goes by Savory Knitting. Last time I showed this, I was umming and ahhing about what to do about sleeve length. I was quite limited on my yarn, This is the Hedgehog Fibres Skinny Singles and the Alpaca Boucle held together, both in the shade Pollen. And I had one skein of the Alpaca Boucle and it was about just over 600 metres, so I had to be really careful. And I've actually got a good handful of the yarn left, so I probably could have gone a bit longer in the body. I could have even gone a size up. I knit this in the size extra small, which is not normally the size I would knit. However, the measurements given was just right for my bust size. However, when I wear it, it's definitely lost the kind of slightly oversized, baggy look. I really like the way it looks and I really like the way it fits, but it doesn't necessarily look like the pictures on the pattern, because I guess my body fills more of it than it would someone who would normally be an extra small size. So the body is square and loose, which is what I like, and the arms are kind of quite tight to my arms, which I also really quite like. The thing I was struggling to decide was whether to do a fitted full length sleeve or a slightly looser 3/4 length sleeve, and to be honest, in the end the pattern kind of decided for me, because when I got to doing the sleeve, even if I'd carried on with no decreases, there really wasn't much fabric anyway to do a poofy sleeve. There wasn't enough stitches, and I didn't want to then go and start increasing to get a more poofier look and mess about with the pattern too much. So it basically decided for me and I went for a long sleeve, and I really like that. And I was looking at the other things in my wardrobe, and I have a pink novice sweater which is a mohair jumper and it has poofy sleeves, and also my Love Note has got slightly poofy sleeves. They're long length but there's no decreases in them, so I'd already kind of got that area of my wardrobe covered. So I think it was good in the end that I went for a fitted sleeve on the Felix, because it's something different in my wardrobe and I don't want to have a wardrobe full of the same things, which would be easily done but I think in this case it worked out quite well. The one thing that didn't kind of really work out the way I envisage, and I again think that's because of the size that I knit and my body, is that when I wear it, the lovely kind of lace chevron detail on the raglan sits quite high on my shoulder. It kind of sits here, and if I can bear the heat, I will pop it on and put some footage in for you. But I kind of imagined it more kind of where a natural raglan would sit, which is kind of more like from your armpit to your collarbone, whereas this, it sits here really, which is fine. It still looks lovely, but I think because even though the measurement fits my bust size, I'm too broad for this size. So my kind of shoulders kind of push that design out and they stretch it across my chest, whereas if there was maybe 5 to 10 centimeters of positive ease in this, that lace would probably kind of sit in a better place and be a little bit more relaxed looking rather than stretched across my torso. But again, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter. My plan was to wear this tucked into, I've got a navy polka dot kind of floaty skirt, which is one of my favourite things in my wardrobe. I wear it all year round. I wear it in the autumn with tights and boots and a jumper tucked in. I also wear it in the summer with like a strap top or something like that. So I had a very clear vision with this and it works for that. I also think it will be quite nice tucked into jeans, maybe a little French tuck at the front, something I learned recently. You know who you are. But overall, I would say that my Felix was a success. I'm absolutely in love with the fabric that this yarn has created. It's not a cheap yarn, but in my opinion, it was worth every single penny because it's just so stunning. It doesn't look hand knit to me. It feels wonderful. It doesn't have any itch for me, though obviously everybody's sensitivity is different. Though people who are sensitive to mohair do tend to find alpaca a bit easier on the skin. And I like that the colour is kind of tonal. There are areas of light and areas of dark, but it doesn't look variegated. And nothing against variegated yarn, but as I've learned from when I made my Love Note, I'm personally not a fan of how with variegated yarn you get a different pattern on the body. Excuse me. You get a different pattern on the body than you do on the arms, because obviously you're working a different circumference, and that's just not something that I like personally for myself. But in this case, the colour distribution is even over the body and over the sleeves. I didn't alternate skeins for this because I used 2 skeins of the skinny singles but 1 skein of the alpaca boucle, so that colour of the alpaca boucle is carried out through the whole thing. I basically used 1 skein of skinny singles for the yoke of the body and the other skein for the arms. And you can probably see there might be a slight difference in the arms and the body, but when it's on, you can't see that at all. So I'm happy about that. Oh, I've talked about that for quite a long time, haven't I? Is there anything else I was unsure about? I originally did the ribbing on the bottom too short. My fault, because I didn't actually check the pattern, and I did it about 3 or 4 rows too short. And then I did my Italian bind off and then realised it was too short. And if you've ever tried to unpick an Italian bind off, you'll know it's not easy, especially in a toothy, fluffy yarn like this. So what I actually did in the end is I went back a row from my cast off and I put my needle under the right leg of every stitch and effectively picked up all my stitches all the way around, which took ages. And then I cut my bind off, cut the Italian bind off away, and then kind of picked out the yarn. And when I got, an apple just fell off our apple tree. When I kind of got towards the end, I kind of unravelled it so I had like a length to work with. And then I just carried on the ribbing. So it was a faff and it took ages, but it was worth it because those extra kind of 5 or 6 rows of ribbing on the bottom have made such a difference to me. I don't know about you, but when a ribbing is short, I find even when it's blocked, it can kind of bend and curl, and I find that a bit annoying. So just having that extra little bit of length, I think this is 2 inches, this ribbing. The ribbing on the sleeves, I think is maybe 4 inches or 3, I'm not too sure. It's long anyway, I really like that. So to kind of balance that off with the bottom, I think it was a much better look. So there you go, that's my Felix. I'm really pleased with it, and I hope you like it too. The pattern's lovely to follow. I mentioned previously I had a bit of trouble with the short rows because you're also changing needles at the same time, but I've realised since that was because of my yarn and needle combination, not because of the pattern. So if you are knitting it with a toothy, fluffy yarn, I don't recommend wooden needles. I ended up using metal needles and found it much easier to slide the stitches about. So that's one more little note. I could probably find other things to say, but let's move on. Now, my next, that's another thing I don't like about the summer, flies. And where we live, they are everywhere. And I'm all right with kind of flies in general. They don't bother me to be around unless they're like in your face. But I'm currently having to hoover like at least twice a day, because by the end of the day, there are dead flies everywhere. And in the morning, there are dead flies everywhere. So yeah, that's not so fun about summer. But anyway, let's move on. The next finished object, I don't know why, but I feel a little bit embarrassed about. Maybe it's because it truly exposes just how much of my time I spend knitting. And I've come to the conclusion that I'm also a fast knitter, but I also have a lot of knitting hours available to me than the average person. Obviously because I don't go to work 9 till 5 traditionally. There is a bit more time in the day for me to knit when my children are playing, when my children are napping, that kind of thing. We spend quite a lot of time at home in general. Originally kind of because of COVID, and then I realised that I actually really like that, and I am naturally an introvert and have been fighting that for most of my life. So now that I feel okay staying at home, I've embraced it and we do it a lot more. And over the past 2 weeks especially, just before I filmed my last podcast, we were having the floors done in a house, and it was 3 weeks of not being able to be in my house at all day, every day, and I really struggled with it. So to then be able to be back in our house, it was like, that's it, we're not going anywhere, we're not doing anything, we're staying at home. That's it. So I had a lot of knitting time available to me in the last 2 weeks. So I have started and finished a colourwork cardigan in that time, actually in about 5 days. Last week, when I was letting you guys know about the Little Monkeys and Me podcast, I was saying about how Fernanda had knit the Maja Cardigan, one of those. I think it's Maja Cardigan, by Helen Magnusson. That's probably a very British way to pronounce it. I apologise. And I had seen this colourwork cardigan and just instantly knew that it was on my list and it would be on my list soon. I wanted it and I wanted it now, but I thought, you know, it's a lopi cardigan. I love lopi yarn personally. I've knit with it before. I've not done colourwork with it before, and now I love it even more because it's amazing for colourwork. But I thought, oh no, I'm not going to knit that anytime soon because, you know, it's 100% wool. I won't actually get to wear that probably until like November, October time. So I'm probably not going to knit that anytime soon. And then there was one night when it was about 2 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't get to sleep, and I was having a little look on Wool Warehouse and inspecting their collection of Let Lopi, and found myself ordering the yarn. And then it arrived a few days later and I had just finished my Felix. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just cast on the sleeve. I did a little swatch of the body, but I thought I'd just cast on the sleeve and do the colour work of the sleeve because it's bottom up and you do the sleeves first. And that way I can kind of treat that as a colour work swatch, and if it doesn't work out then I know I need to change my needle size kind of thing. And then I cast on the sleeve and finished the sleeve in a day. And I knew at that moment that I was not going to put that project down. I met gauge, fortunately, and I used the same needle size for the colour work and stockinette stitch, and it seems to be okay. But I knew at that moment that I was going to work exclusively on that jumper no matter what. And I did, and 5 days later it was done. So I should probably show you it now, shouldn't I? This is my Maja cardigan, and quite honestly, even though I haven't worn it yet, it might well be my most favourite thing I have ever knit. I'm really proud of it. I'm really, really proud because it looks so good. I think it is just stunning. I think the pattern is beautiful. Just, it's, for me, it looks, you know, kind of Fair Isle-y, that kind of traditional lopesa, I'm not sure of the actual word, a traditional Icelandic colourwork sweater, but it's not too traditional. It's got a slightly modern edge to it. It's kind of got a botanical, natural kind of theme to it, but I think the kind of chevron details keeps it modern and relevant. And honestly, to knit this colourwork was addictive. There's no other word for it. I couldn't put my needles down. I didn't do washing. Oh, butterfly. I don't know if you saw that, cheeky little butterfly. I don't know if I did washing for the entire time I was knitting this, because every spare moment I got, I was working on it. It wasn't too hot at that point. It was still reasonably cool, so it didn't make me hot to work on it. But the colour work, it's, for me, it's just the right balance between colour work and stockinette. You get the kind of full colour work look, but because of this kind of band of stockinette that runs through it, you get a break from it. So you do all your colour work of the sleeve and it's really satisfying, but then you get a little bit of a break whilst you work on the arm. And then you cast on the body and you do the colour work, and just as you're starting to get a bit like, oh, okay, this is quite a lot, you get a little break from the middle, and then you join the arms and you do the yoke. So it's worked bottom up, and it's just for me the perfect ratio of colour work to stockinette, and it made every single stitch a pleasure. Honestly, I don't feel like I can emote just how much joy this brought to me. It is a steeked cardigan, so when you knit the body, you knit the ribbing flat because you can't really steek ribbing, and then you join in the round and you work the body in the round, and then you connect the arms, and then you work the yoke, cast off, and then you cut it down the middle. I have steeked before, but it was a little cardigan for my daughter, which took me 2 days to make, and it wasn't that, you know, kind of important a knit. If it didn't go well, it didn't really matter. Fortunately, it did go well. So I was confident when it came to steeking this one, a little too confident, it turns out. The pattern calls for 2 steek stitches. So you follow the colour work, and then you have 2 stitches in the middle that aren't part of the colour work, that aren't counted in the stitch count, and that's where you cut. And I remember Fernanda saying that she'd done more stitches because 2 just felt too risky for her, and I thought it's probably a good idea. So I did 4 steek stitches. So you would cut between them and have 2 rows of stitches either side of your cut to kind of your safety barrier. Now, at some point between the bottom colour work and the top colour work, my beginning of round moved. I'm not sure how. So basically my steek stitches here was offset by 1 when I got to here, and I didn't realise this until I was actually cutting the steek. So I was working up the middle with my 2 stitches either side, and then I got up to here, and all of a sudden I only had 1 stitch this side and 3 stitches this side. And in order for the colour work pattern to sit right either side of the button band, I couldn't then kind of hop over and have 2 stitches again. I had to stay where I was. So in the end, it turns out that this part of the steek only had 1 stitch between the steek and the place where you pick up the band. And for me, oh, it was hairy. There were a few moments where I thought I was going to lose it, but fortunately I didn't. And the other reason I didn't make life easy for myself is because I didn't reinforce my steek. I like to live on the edge, what can I say? Basically in the pattern it suggests that you reinforce your steek with a sewing machine, and my sewing machine is out of order at the moment, or out of action, and I didn't have the patience to wait to go to my mum's. And then I thought, well, I could just crochet my reinforcement, but then I couldn't find my crochet hook. I literally only have 1 crochet hook for this kind of thing. Couldn't find it because the house is still a little bit of chaos from the reno. So I just thought, do you know what? I really trust lopi. When you try and rip it back, it's really difficult because it's so sticky and it sticks together. I've got more than enough space. I'm sure it will be fine. I'll go slow. So I just, yeah. It wasn't the best steeking experience. I was going to film it, but because I was so nervous about it, I really wanted to concentrate on it, and I didn't want to have the distraction of trying to film it as well. I also know that this isn't going to be my only lopi sweater that is steeked, or cardigan that's going to be steeked, so I'm sure I'll be able to film it and show you again at another time when I'm a little bit more confident and I do it properly. That's the old Penrose impatience, as I like to call it. But in the end, it all worked out. I went with black buttons in the end because I did have some wooden buttons, which I thought would be nice because it would kind of link with the kind of nature design of it, but they just didn't look right. They were too pale. And in the end, I thought I want something dark that will kind of pick up on the darker colour work. So I just went on eBay and found these plastic, they're kind of slightly, they were called variegated buttons, and they have that kind of marbly look to them. They're just not flat black. And I literally sewed them on this morning, and they seem to be doing the job. I don't think, whilst I'm thinking about it, I didn't put my buttonholes in the right place. I somehow managed to put them a row too soon. So they're not quite in the middle of my button band, but from what I can tell, that's not really a problem. The pattern says to put your buttonholes on row 4, and it was row 4, but I think it should have been row 5. So either I didn't count properly, or I didn't understand the instructions, or the instructions weren't quite right. I'm not inclined to say the instructions aren't right because the pattern is perfect and would have been tech edited and tested and everything. So it's probably the way I interpreted. But if you are intending on knitting this, just double check when it comes to your buttonholes. The buttonhole method was one I hadn't used before. Normally my buttonholes would go across and you just do a yarn over, knit 2 together, and that creates a hole, whereas this creates vertical buttonholes. So that was fun, I enjoyed that. My leftover steek you can still see on the inside. I haven't done anything with it yet. You can kind of see here how this is where I had 2 rows of stitches next to my cut, and the first row kind of unravels, and you can see the second row is still very much intact, and it's the same as you go down, but that was not the case up here, and I think it's on this side where, yes, you can see it got particularly hairy at this point where I've just got that one stitch between the pickup and the steek. My plans for the leftover steek, it will naturally felt on its own over time and with wear, but I do have some felting needles, so I might just go over this steek just to give it a little bit more of a felt, to give it that extra security. And actually, now thinking in hindsight, I could have felted the steek before I cut it. That would have been probably a good idea. I would like to cover the steek with a ribbon eventually, but I've just got to find the right ribbon. I'm not going to rush it just for the sake of it, because I would really quite like to have a nice, like, pretty fun print ribbon on the inside, because you're never actually going to see it. I would quite like a Liberty print, like a Liberty of London floral print, but all the ribbons I've found, they're kind of light colours, pinks, blues, that kind of thing, whereas I'd like something either green or brown, maybe like a, I don't know, like a woodland animal print ribbon, something like that, something that matches the kind of tone of the garment. Can a garment have a tone? It can now. But it's fun and unexpected, so I might just hold off and wait until I find the right ribbon. There's a beautiful sewing shop and school in the town nearest to me, and they have stunning fabric and ribbons. They carry yarn as well. They have Berger de France, and it's where I first bought my very first yarn from. So I might head over there at some point and see what they've got. And then I can take it with me and hold the ribbon against it and see what's right. I have had a look online, but you just can't tell. Just can't tell. So I will wait until I can actually get to a ribbon shop to choose the ribbon. Whilst we're talking about colours, I chose these yarn colours online, and they are the colour Spring Green Heather, Apricot, just plain white, and then I think the darker colour was like Storm or Stormy Sea or something like that. And to be 100% honest with you, they weren't quite what I had in mind when I chose them. The original pattern has this kind of rusty brown colour in this area, and then it has a dark blue and then a light blue here. And I'm not really a blue person, but I did like the overall vibe of that colour combination, so I decided to swap out the blue for the green. Now in my head, this was more of a kind of earthy, sagey, browny green, and this was more of a kind of like forest emeraldy green, because this is technically green, but it basically reads black or grey. When you look closely, it is green and there are other flecks of colour in it, but I think if I had seen these colours in the shop, I wouldn't have chosen them, because this is definitely more of an apple green. This is too green, this is too green, and this is not green enough. However, I don't really mind at all, because I love it, and I don't think I'd have loved it more if the colours were more like what I had in mind, and I don't love it less because the colours aren't what I had in mind. It's just, I think they look really, really nice together. I think it makes it slightly more like spring as well. I mean, the colour is Spring Green Heather, so that means I can wear it in the autumn and in the spring. It's not got that kind of more wintry look that I was originally going for. So I guess that's something that you just learn from when you're buying yarn online. If I'd gone, Wool Warehouse is really, really close to me. I know, so lucky. And they have a shop front as well, so I could have gone in and seen these colours. When the shop was open before COVID, the shop assistants were always so helpful and so amazing, and they wouldn't mind at all going back into the warehouse and pulling out different colours. In the shop front, you can buy off the shelf yarn, and then they also have one of every yarn that's in their warehouse on display for you to look at. You don't buy that yarn, they go out and get it for you, but you can actually look at it, feel it, touch it, see what it's like, which is awesome. And I cannot wait for them to reopen. It's going to be just like, here you go, take all my money. But for now, I will be content with ordering online. So maybe I would have chosen different colours, but again, I don't really mind. I've hardly got any of the light green left, so the yardage on that was spot on. But I do still have quite a lot of the rust and the white and the kind of dark green left over, so maybe those will feature in future lopi cardigans. I don't know. So there you go. That's my Maja. I love it. I'm obsessed with it and I cannot wait to wear it. That's another reason why I hate summer. I can't wear all my beautiful knitwear. What a shame, what a shame. So speaking of not being able to wear knitwear in summer, you totally can wear knitwear in summer. And I was planning on wearing knitwear in summer, but it didn't really work out that way. So the next item is, it's kind of a finished object and a whip, because it is finished, but I can't wear it. And it needs to be redone. This is a cami that I have shown you before, and it is a self-draft. This has been worked on up and down for the past couple of months, and in the last episode I'd done one of the kind of boob cups, and after I showed you that I realised that it hadn't really worked and I needed to rip back and redo it. I also hadn't really divided my front and back not properly, but I didn't have enough room in the front and I had too much room in the back. I have now since realised that I had way too much in the back, like 10 to 15 centimetres of fabric too much in the back, and actually the front was fine. It was the back that was the problem. And I didn't realise this until I was doing the straps. So for me it was kind of too late to rip it all back, because I would have had to literally have ripped the whole thing back and started again, because the whole thing is too big. But anyway, I have finished it nonetheless. I haven't weaved my ends in, but I have finished it, so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And this is my little self-draft cami. It's going to be kind of difficult to show you like this, and I can put it on my body, so I will put in some cutaways, but as you can see I've kind of sewn the back together where it should be, and all of this is excess fabric. When I put it on my body it just hangs off me and doesn't fit the way I want to, and it's not a good look. And I'm not gonna lie, I was quite mad at it and at myself, because I've put so many hours into this. It's 4-ply, it's 3mm needles. The body itself took so long, and when I ripped back the cup I also added an extra 2 inches onto the body, and that took a long time, especially with all this extra fabric to work. It would have been a lot quicker if I didn't have all this extra fabric to work. But I know that I'm just another step closer to the final design. It hasn't worked out this time, but it doesn't feel like a waste because I'm so close. And I know the next time that I knit this, it's going to be perfect. So it is a ribbed cami. It's technically a 3x1, and then in every other section you have a little eyelet, just a yarn over, knit 2 together eyelet. And the way I've worked it, it has the purl side showing, and something that I really like about this cami, and is something that I've worked into the design, is that it is reversible. And I suppose I could actually, you can probably see it better actually this way around. You can see all my ends, but you can also kind of see where the join will be in the back. So this is it on the knit side. And I put a little poll on my Instagram as to whether people prefer the knit side or the purl side, and it was pretty much 50-50. I prefer the purl side because that's how I envisaged it in my head when I first started making it, but it's just a Brucey bonus that it's beautiful on the other side as well. And the way I've done the trim means that it's reversible, other than how I've attached the straps, and this is something I need to work on. And the way I've attached the straps, you wouldn't really want to wear that on the outside. So it may be a case of either you knit it and then you decide which way round you want it and then attach your straps, or I find a better way of attaching the straps. So that could be possible. The other thing I need to change is, originally I knit the bottom up, then divided the front and back, and then worked on one booby cup and then the other booby cup, but just the kind of rib that you see in here. And then after I'd done them, I decreased them all the way down to 1 stitch, and then starting on the side here, I cast on, joined, and then picked up and worked the double knit band all the way down the side of the cup, all the way along the back, and then all the way up the other side of the cup, and left the stitches on hold. And then for the inside of the cups, one of them I started at the bottom and worked my way up, and the other one I started at the top and worked my way down. Because when you're picking up the stitches of the double knit, you do get a kind of a little ridge. So to make sure that was on the inside of the garment, I kind of had to do the picking up a funny way around. And then my plan was, I had my live stitches on one side, I did a provisional cast on when I started the band, with the intention that I could then pick up those stitches and then have a row of live stitches along the top, decrease into my strap, which I did do, and technically it worked. However, I don't like the way it looks. I would do close-ups as usual, but where I had my provisional cast on, you can see where the stitches were just kept live, it's a really nice transition from the edge to the strap, but where I've got my provisional cast on stitches, it just doesn't look very good. It looks a bit messy, the stitches are loose, the way I decreased again didn't really work, and it's just not good enough for me, in my opinion, for a pattern that I might potentially release for people to buy. If I bought that and that was the finished result, I probably wouldn't be that happy. So what I have now realised is that I can actually integrate this double knit edge whilst I'm working the cup. And it will mean I'll have a provisional cast on this side and a provisional cast on the other side. So when I work the band across the back, I will then Kitchener the two sides together. So there might be a slight seam and a slight join there, but it will be here. It'll be under your armpit. It won't be right here on the front where like you mainly look. So at least, though I can't wear this yet, I have plans. I've learnt so much from it, and it means that I can actually get the garment I do want in the way I want it. So that means when I decrease up to this point, all the stitches on the top will be live, and then I can just carry on into the strap, so it will be a beautiful, seamless transition. I think it's going to be gorgeous. So what I'm going to do with this, because I can't wear it as it is anyway, I'm going to take it to my mum's, use her sewing machine, do some surgery. I'm basically going to, obviously it will be inside out, not this way round. I will sew along here, like lots and lots and lots, and then cut the excess fabric away, and then use my mum's sewing machine to kind of zigzag stitch along the edge, or like hem stitch along the edge to secure all those ends. And basically I'm going to steek it, but this is a wool and cotton mix, so not good for steeking because it doesn't stick to itself, it won't felt, it will just fall apart. So I'm going to do as much reinforcement as I can with the sewing machine, and it does mean that I will have a seam up the back, but that doesn't really matter in the end. It will hopefully mean I'll get to wear it, so all that kind of work won't go completely to waste. Not that it'll go to waste anyway, because obviously I've learned everything from it, but I will be able to wear it. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that. I will pop this on. I might have already inserted that footage, I don't know, I'm not editing yet, but I will pop this on so you can kind of see what it looks like on the body, because I do think it looks really nice. I think it looks a little bit sexy, which wasn't an original idea, but it's kind of how it went, and I really, really like that. The plan for this will be to knit another one and get the pattern written down, but I don't think that will be happening until next year, because that process in itself will probably take me another few months. So by the time it's ready to be tested and released, it will be winter, so pretty pointless. So I'm going to have a little break from this because it's been so intensive. I do need a little break from it. But then hopefully I'll be able to come back to it, and I will work on it over the winter myself, kind of as and when I feel like it. So then by the time we get to spring, it should be ready to test knit, so that my test knitters can knit it during the spring, so that the pattern is ready kind of at the end of spring, beginning of summer to release. I am very, very intimidated about braiding this, about kind of sizing it up and sizing it down, because it's quite, it's not, is it complicated? It's hard to know. It's really hard to kind of give your own patterns a difficulty level, because you did it so you didn't find it difficult, but then it's kind of hard to place where that is on the scale. But there's definitely some specific techniques in there which I will make videos for to explain. So it's probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's advanced, but it's probably intermediate, I reckon. So yeah, gone off on a bit of a tangent there. That's my cami. Does have a name. Should I tell you the name? Shall I tell you the name? Yeah, I'll tell you the name. This is called the Sorella Cami. It named itself basically in the end, and it's named the Sorella Cami for a few reasons. I didn't mean to name it with an Italian word like I did for my cornicette socks. It just so happened to be an Italian word. Sorella means sister, and me and my sister call each other Sorella or Sorels or Sorelsi, or we went to Italy when I was about 20, she was about 22, and whilst we were in Italy together, we called each other Sorelli and Sorella because that was the Italian word for sister, and it stuck, and that's what we call each other, to the point where we once asked my now 10-year-old nephew, but I think he was about 3 at the time, I said, Leo, what's Auntie Lala's real name? And he went, Sorelsi. So even he thought my name was Sorels, because that's what we call each other. But I also thought it was a really nice link to the fact that you can wear it 2 ways. So it's not a twin, it's not the same, but they are related, like sisters. Like I could wear it one way and you could wear it the other way if you were the sister, and it's like, it's just the sister top. It's of sisters, and I just love that. So that's the Sorella top. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to get working on that again. Maybe I'll start it sooner rather than later. Who knows? Oh, the other thing I've just thought was, for this I used Felix Mercy, which is a yarn I absolutely love. And as I said before, it's 50-50 wool and Pima cotton, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. But I don't think it's right for this project. It kind of has a softness and a bounciness to it, and a bit, obviously it's stretchy because it's rib, but it's almost too squishy, which obviously normally with knitting you want the squish, but in this case I don't. So I think I might have a look for a yarn that has a silk or a linen content. Not 100%, because I don't want the stiffness, but something that has Pima cotton and maybe linen/silk in it as well, to kind of give it a bit more sturdiness, a bit more solidness, and maybe a bit more drape, because this feels quite bulky in my opinion. So yeah, if you know of a yarn, if you know of a good yarn of that kind of content, please do let me know, because then I don't have to research it myself. So the next project is my main whip. I do have a couple of other whips going on. I've got my little secret summer crop by Jessie Maid on the go, and I have some socks, but I haven't worked on them since the last episode, so there isn't really much to show you, so I won't bother showing you those today. But my main active whip at the moment is a pattern I think I've mentioned before, but wasn't actually intending on casting on this week. But when I realised things had gone tits up with the cami, it needed to go in the naughty corner for a couple of days, and I wanted something else to work on that was really, really different. So kind of to go from 3mm needles fingering weight yarn, naturally I was like, I want something bulky. And when I was ordering my lopi from Wool House, I happened to notice that they had a little sale on, and they had a drops sale on. So I thought, what can I use this yarn for? I know, speaking of sisters, it is my sister's birthday at the end of August. Now, if you've seen episode 1, I talk about how this is my year of selfish knitting, and how the first 2 years of my knitting journey had all been things for the people, and I barely knit anything for myself, and I was starting to fall out of love with knitting. So this was a year that I was only going to knit for myself, unless I wanted to knit something for the people. And I made the Humbley Bee shawl for my mother-in-law, and I think I've done a couple of children's jumpers for the people, and I always knew that I would be making something for my sister for her birthday, because she is incredibly knit worthy. She's a crafter herself, but she does crochet, so she appreciates the time and work and effort that goes into a knitted garment, as does my mother-in-law, as does my mum, and they're the kind of people who I want to knit for regularly. And when I saw this pattern, I think it came out quite a while ago, but when I saw it, I instantly knew that I was going to knit it for my sister. And it is the Magnolia Bloom. It's by Camilla Vad. Yes, Camilla Vad. And there are quite a few iterations of this pattern. I think originally the Magnolia was a bottom up, and the Magnolia Bloom is the top down version. There's a cardigan version, I think there might be a lighter weight version, but this is, it's technically chunky weight or bulky weight, though in the original pattern she uses like 2 strands of one thing and 2 strands of another thing, and I actually found it quite difficult to understand what would work for this pattern and what wouldn't, because the yarns she uses as well are quite specific yarns that you can't just like get anywhere. So I thought, do you know what, seeing as there is a sale on drops, I got myself some Drops Alaska, which is a Aran weight yarn. It's recommended for 5mm needles, and for me, if it's recommended for 5mm, it's around an Aran weight yarn. And then also the Drops Kid Silk. I have bought this before, but haven't actually used it yet, so it's my first time using this, and so far so good. And it's definitely on the lower end of the scale when it comes to mohairs and price, and it was in the sale as well, so I thought I'll get these two. I think it came to a total of maybe £40 altogether for all the yarn, what I think is all the yarn. I'm flying through this, so hopefully I've got enough. But for a big warm 100% wool mohair jumper, £40 I think is a really good price point. So I thought I'll get it, I'll make it for my sister. I've got nearly 2 months to make it, and it'll be a quick knit, and if it doesn't quite work out, it doesn't matter, I can do something else in the meantime, or if I can't get gauge with this yarn for this jumper, then I'll find something else. And it wasn't a huge spend, and I could definitely use this for something else. But it worked out. I did a gauge swatch and it was just about right. I'm about half a stitch too small. I think it's 14 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I was basically, my 14 stitches hit like 9 3/4 centimeters, something like that. It was very minimal, but I decided not to go up a needle size because then I knew I wouldn't like the fabric, it would be too loose. And to compensate for that slightly tighter gauge, I will size up. I've had to make a guess on what size would be right for my sister based on her frame compared to my frame, but again, if I finish this and I don't think it's the right size, I can knit another one between now and her birthday at the end of August, and again, this will get used, it will get worn, and I can replace the yarn at an all right price. It's not like I've spent £80–90 on the yarn for something and then it doesn't work out. So that was my thinking with that, and I mean, you can tell that I've been enjoying it because I cast this on 2 days ago. I mean, what can you say? It's stunning. It's lacework, it's nups, it's chunky, it's fluffy. It's just absolutely stunning, and I don't think me holding this up will do it justice, so of course I'll lay it out and take proper footage for you. But it's just the most pleasurable knit. I really like lacework, and I've discovered that I prefer chunkier lacework. I have done some kind of finer lacework things for children's garments, and I think they were in a DK weight, and honestly I found it a little bit of a chore after a while, and I didn't so much enjoy the lacework. Whereas in this case, it's an 8. In this size I repeat the pattern 8 times, so it's not like over and over and over again. And because it's just yarn overs and decreases, and then with the occasional nup or bobble, as you would, it's not a lot of information to hold into your head. You can pick it up quite quickly, you can predict what's happening, and you can read the row before. And because it's knit in the round, every other row is just knit with the occasional purl. No kind of lace work at all. So you do that intense round of lace, and then you have a little break. And that's just very appealing for me, and I find it a very enjoyable knit. I mainly worked on this in the car yesterday because, again, 100% wool in this heat, not great. So it's mainly been in the evenings and in the car where there's aircon. And I am just about ready to split the sleeves. I've worked the short rows are worked after the lace, which again is something that I really like, and it's a design thought and a design detail that I really appreciate. In the ranunculus, for example, the short rows are worked immediately after the kind of neckband. In the back and the front, actually, you don't normally get short rows in the front, but what that means is you have your nice kind of semicircle shape of lace work and then a gap of stockinette just at the back, and in the case of the ranunculus, at the front as well, which is something I wasn't too keen on. My ranunculus is no more. It got felted, which is a shame, but I've moved on now, clearly. But that little section of stockinette short row at the front between the collar and the lacework used to quite annoy me, if I'm honest. And if I do knit a ranunculus again, I won't be doing those short rows, I can tell you that. But in this case, the short rows that are put in the back, which are used to push the back neckline up so it doesn't sit flat and then kind of pulls on your back. It sits nicely around the shape of your neck, so lower at the front, higher at the back. Those short rows are done after the lace work. And I really appreciate that because it basically makes them invisible, and I really like that about this pattern. So I'm ready to split, but I didn't want to split. I didn't have time to split before I showed you. So then it's just going to be quite a loose balloony type sleeve and then quite a loose balloony body. And I'm sure I'll probably smash that out in the next couple of days if it doesn't stay this swelteringly hot. This is going to be my evening watching telly kind of knit now because it's quite mindless. So that I think brings us to the end of all the projects. Oh! So this week I have some acquisitions. I don't always have acquisitions because honestly, usually I only buy for project. I'm not someone that has a large stash. I don't kind of see yarn, buy it and then figure out the pattern afterwards because I find that a little bit stressful, figuring out have I got enough? Will it work? Will I get gay? Blah, 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 blah. I prefer to just decide on the pattern and then find the yarn that I want. And actually, since the last podcast, I've bought the yarn for the Lopi and the Magnolia Bloom. So they are technically acquisitions, but obviously they're already live. But I do have some other yarn that I've not yet used and I have acquired in the last 2 weeks. If acquisitions are not your cup of tea, I completely understand. There will be some knitting chat after this, and I will be letting you know what's tickled my knitting pickle this week. So if you'd like to skip ahead, there will be timestamps below, or I will see you next time. Don't forget to let me know what's been tickling your knitting pickle this week, of course. But for now, on to acquisitions. As I mentioned, I've picked up some sale yarn this month for the Magnolia Bloom, and I've also picked up some sale yarn from John Lewis, the John Lewis website, more accurately. And it is the Rowan Valley Tweed. I don't know why I was looking on the John Lewis website. I was probably bored or annoyed at something, so I was doing some window shopping. But I saw that they had a sale on some of their yarns, which included this guy. I really like Rowan brand yarn. Their mohair is stunning and is my favourite mohair of all. My novice sweater is 100% Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and it's just, oh, it's delicious. It's delicious. I can definitely tell the difference between the Drops Kid Silk and the Rowan. And I don't really know why that is, because they're both the same silk and kid mohair percentages, but there's something about the Rowan stuff that just has a more soft, silky, luxurious feel to it. But Rowan yarns are on the kind of higher spectrum of yarns. This is a fingering weight, and my plan for this is a jumper for my husband. So normally, to get that amount of fingering weight yarn for a jumper in his size, it would have cost a lot of money. Now I can't remember what the actual discount was for this, but overall I think I spent about £40 on this. And I'm starting to realise that I think that's kind of where my kind of happy spot sits when it comes to buying yarn and how much I spend on my hobby and my craft. The Hedgehog Fibres Felix sweater was definitely significantly above that, and I love it and I enjoyed it, and it's going to be a very much worn part of my wardrobe, and I would like to invest in that kind of yarn again in the future. But I think in general, £40 for me for a full-size sweater is about the right price point for me, I think. And when this was on sale, it fell into that category. I bought it originally without a pattern in mind. My husband is well overdue a sweater. I have made him 2 sweaters in the past for Christmases, and both times the first time I was a really new knitter. Second time I was a less new knitter and should have known better but didn't. I didn't gauge swatch, I guessed the sizing, and by the time I had washed and blocked and he'd worn the sweaters once, they had grown so much they just didn't fit him, and they didn't look oversized and cool. They looked like a little boy wearing his daddy's jumper. It was just ridiculous, so they didn't fit. So I found that very frustrating, because both times I've made those sweaters, I'd worked really hard on them and spent a lot of time on them. Knitting them in secret with someone you live with ain't easy. So this time I was like, when I do make a jumper for my husband, I want to invest in a really good quality yarn. The previous 2 ones have been 100% acrylic yarn as well, which is absolutely fine and has its place and is my go-to for kids garments, because acrylic yarn washes so well and it's so robust. But I have found for larger adult garments, it doesn't hold up so well. So something that is wool, and this is 100% wool, let me just double check that. Yeah, 100% wool. I know that this is going to hold its shape and be a lot more kind of sturdy than 100% acrylic. It's a fingering weight yarn, and as I said, when I first bought it, I didn't have a project in mind, and it's one of the reasons why I don't, because when I found the project that I wanted to use this for, I didn't have enough. I thought I'll order 5 skeins of this, that will be more than enough, but actually it's not enough for a jumper of my husband's size. And I think I'll probably knit him, he'll probably be a medium, maybe a large, I'm not too sure, it depends on the kind of actual butterfly again. It depends on the measurements of the pattern, but I needed more like 7 skeins. And when I first ordered this, 5 skeins of this did not meet the free delivery mark for John Lewis, so I paid the £3 postage. And then when it all arrived, I realised I didn't have enough and I needed 2 more skeins. So I then went back on the John Lewis website and ordered the other 2, paid the £3.50 postage again, whereas if I just ordered the 7 skeins in the first place, I would have got free delivery instead of spending £7 on it. So that is one of the reasons I don't just kind of impulsively buy yarn, because if I had decided on the pattern first and then found this yarn in the sale, I would have been like, I need 7 skeins of that to make this pattern. So speaking of the pattern, my intention for this pattern is the So Basic Sweater by Max the Knitter, which I first saw on the Jonathan Day podcast, which I've mentioned to you before, and his one just looked so lovely. And as the pattern name suggests, So Basic, it's a basic sweater. It's the body is stockinette, it's raglan. The sleeves, I believe, have a little pearl stitch every now and then, so that the sleeves have a little bit of detail to them, but it's basically a basic sweater, but it looks so beautifully designed and the fit looks good. The 2 jumpers I've made for my husband before were both Aran weight, and they were just too big. They weren't really him, they were too thick, they were too heavy, and it just wasn't really his kind of thing. Whereas I really like it when my husband wears a slightly more fitted jumper of a lighter weight. I think it really flatters him and I think they look really good on him. So that's what I'm going to try and achieve with this. I'm not sure what the exact colour is, the name isn't on here, and I don't know if this is available anymore in the John Lewis sale, but it's worth having a look, because I'm really looking forward to knitting with it. I haven't swatched it yet because I can't find my ball winder because of before mentioned Renault chaos. It's been put away somewhere and I can't find it, so I haven't swatched with this yet. But you can see it's kind of it's mainly brown, and it's like a darker brown, a reddy brown twisted with a lighter brown, and then with flecks of kind of orangey yellow in it, and it just looks so lovely. It's my husband's colour, and I think this is going to knit up really beautifully. So even if I haven't started this project by the next time I podcast, I hopefully will have swatched, so I'll be able to show you that. This is going to be for my husband's either birthday or Christmas. His birthday is quite close to Christmas. It's like motorbike. His birthday is mid-November, so if this is done by his birthday, I'll give it him for that. If not, I've got till Christmas. And I'm going to start this soon, because as I've realised, giving myself a deadline for something, it just sucks all the joy out of it for me. So I'm going to be casting this on soon, because this is going to take a while, because it is on like 3.25 millimeters, I think, suggested. I don't know, it's going to be a while. But maybe this will probably be my kind of stockinette, like mindless thing. Not that I'll be able to do it in the evenings, because my husband will be there. Though to be fair, I could probably knit it in front of him and he wouldn't even realise it was for him. He's so used to me seeing me knitting, and bless him, isn't that interested in it. Like, I could sit and talk to him about my projects all the time and he would listen and he would go, oh, yeah, no, great, that's really nice, it looks awesome, well done. But it's not really his cup of tea. Like, when he talks about his video games with me, oh yeah, no, that's great, darling, but yeah, not my cup of tea. Anyway, one more acquisition for you, and this one is pretty special for me for a few reasons, and I'm going to tell you now that this yarn has been gifted to me. So it's technically an and gifted, but I will also say that this was given to me with no strings attached whatsoever. I was not asked to talk about it, but I'm so excited about it, you can bet I'm going to talk about it. So right here I have, this isn't all of it, the lovely Simona from Knit Yarns gifted me a sweater quantity of the Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool and the matching Telia. And oh my god, I'm so excited about this. I have mentioned Simona and her website before, so this is something I would already recommend to you, and is something I've bought a lot of yarn from her, and the service from Knit Yarns is so brilliant. I've mentioned before with my love note, I ran out of the Veta that I was using, so I ordered another ball, and she contacted me on Instagram to say, what's your dye lot? I'll see if I can match it, without even being asked. And that's what you get from, you know, small independent yarn sellers, is that kind of service. So if you haven't checked out Knit Yarns yet, I highly recommend and have been recommending from day one. So when she contacted me and said, would I like to try out the Filcolana Telia? Of course I said yes. I said, yes, please, thank you very much. I would be honoured to try it out. And she asked me what colour I'd like, so I had a little look, and I ended up going with this one, which I think is called Green Tea. It's colour 355. So I was expecting some of this to try out, but I wasn't expecting the matching Peruvian Highland wool in the same colour. It's colour 355, which I think is called Green Tea. And I'm just so excited to get this on the needles. I've come to realise that I think my favourite colour is officially green. Might be a little bit pink, but it's mainly green. And green of all shades. I really like dark greens, I like lighter greens. I'm not so keen on like lime greens, but this kind of sagey green tea green is just, oh, it's all me. I'm looking at my phone right now and it's green. So I've got a sweater quantities worth of this, and I don't 100% know what I'm going to make with it yet. I've got a few ideas. I bought the Petite Knit September sweater pattern about 2 years ago, before I even knew what brioche was, and I bought it. I was like, oh my god, this would be amazing. Started to read the pattern and was like, oh hell no. It looked so complicated, and it was way past my skill level at the time, and it's been in the back of my mind since, and I feel like I could probably quite confidently knit that pattern now, and this could quite potentially work for it. However, I don't quite have enough for the size that I would knit, so I would need to order a little bit more. So that's currently in the running for this yarn. There is also, sorry, I just had to grab my iPad because the other pattern I've got in mind for this I only found last night and can remember the name of it. I discovered a designer last night called Alice Hammer, and she is French, and I am already obsessed with her designs. You might have heard of her already. She's by no means a small designer. She's got a massive backlog of patterns, and every single one of them I want to knit. But there's one particular, and it's called Cardigan Mary, and I will pop a little picture in, but it is a kind of, it's a yoked cardigan that has nups and lace work, and it just, oh, it looks absolutely stunning. It's so gorgeous, and it's a worsted weight suggested in the pattern. So I've got a feeling that this combination might be too dense, but then I'm also thinking for a cardigan, a bit of denseness isn't necessarily a bad thing. So basically what I need to do with this is I need to swatch it. I need to find out the gauge for that cardigan and for the September sweater, and if I'm honest, I'm definitely leaning more towards the cardigan because I think it will probably be a little bit more wearable for me. So I really hope that I can get a gauge with this combination for that cardigan, because it's just absolutely stunning, and I don't know how I haven't heard of this designer before, because she's pretty big. So that is all of my acquisitions and my future plans. So let's get into some Knitty Chat. So what's been tickling my knitting pickle this week or since the last episode? And I've got something for you this time, and it's based around my Maja cardigan, because I had a little bit of a pickle tickling moment when I was making it. And for so long I have been put off bottom up sweaters, and I don't really know why. I've been gravitating towards top down for so long. I've made quite a lot of them, and I really enjoy top down sweaters because I get to do the most exciting bit first. I usually will choose a pattern that's got an interesting yoke, and then the rest is like stockinette. And then I often find the body particularly quite laborious and not that interesting. So when it was like, oh well, if you do a bottom up sweater, you've got to do all that boring bit first, and you don't get to do the fancy bit until the end. And that's a valid point. However, now that I've actually done a bottom up yoke sweater, because I've done the Seabourn tee before and that was bottom up. However, that was quite a different construction. That was bottom up, front, back, and then attach the sleeves separately. This was knit all the sleeves first, then knit the body, join it all together and do the yoke. And I was just so put off by that technique for so long. I feel like I've said no to so many patterns because of that. I'm like, what have I been missing? What have I missed out on? And when I did the bottom of the sweater and I'd finished my first sleeve, I thought, oh, I've done a sleeve, I've got a sleeve done. I'm going to smash the next one out now. There was no second sleeve syndrome because I knew once I finished the second sleeve, I was going to get to work on the body. And then as I was working the body, there was none of that, oh, come on, I just want to get to the ribbing now, I just want to get this done. It was like, oh yeah, let's work on the body, because when I've done the body, I get to do the yoke. And it was basically like delayed satisfaction or delayed gratification. Saving my most favourite bit until the end motivated me to get through the bits I didn't like so much. So the thing that has officially been tickling my knitting pickle this week is stepping out of my comfort zone and trying something that I've been putting off for so long. And honestly, that is probably one of the comments that I get the most, or something that I speak to people about the most over on Instagram is, oh, I've wanted to do this for so long, but I've been putting it off. I've not tried it, but I've seen you do it, and I would really like to do it. It looks so fun. Usually to do with socks. And I always say to people, you know, just do it, just cast it on. What's the worst that could happen? And I realised that I wasn't even living by my own advice. I've been putting off this kind of style garment for so long, and I'm like kicking myself now because I could have been doing this for so much longer. So do it. Step outside your comfort zone. Try that technique. Try that construction that you've been like, I really want to try, but I'm not sure. Just do it. Just give it a go, because this cardigan has brought me so much joy on so many levels. I'm actually itching, not because it's Icelandic wool. I'm just itching to cast another one on. And I want you guys to experience that joy as well of stepping out of your comfort zone. A little bit of podcast admin. I was hoping that my corset sock pattern would be released in time with this episode, but that hasn't quite happened. It's basically ready to go, but I just need to kind of do some final kind of formatting almost. I met up with my sister last weekend or the weekend before? Last weekend, I think, and I have finalised my logo for Penrose Knits. and my logo for the Knitting Pickle, but it's not quite ready yet. She's still kind of working on the final files for me. So I have still got a little bit of kind of design admin to do with her, but I am hoping, and I'm not going to commit myself to this, but hopefully by the next podcast, and I know I said that the last podcast and the last podcast before that, but hopefully by then I will be ready to release the corner set sock pattern, and I'm going to do it in sync with the next podcast, or with a podcast, because I am going to do a giveaway. I promise, I'm going to do a giveaway. I know I'm really overdue a giveaway. But my plan is to do a kind of a slightly larger giveaway. So a giveaway to celebrate the release of the pattern. So one of the prizes will be the corner set sock pattern with some yarn to go with it, so you can actually make the pattern. And then I have also, the wonderful Hannah from Herb Garden Knitwear has donated a pattern for you guys as well. So that will be another prize. And to go alongside Hannah's donated pattern, my mother has made you guys a project bag. I'll just go and get it. I've shown you some of my mum's project bags before, and they are stunning. She hasn't opened her Etsy shop yet. She's only just retired, so when she settled into her retirement a little bit, her plan is to open an Etsy shop, but she has already made one for you guys, and I'm going to be giving this stunning project bag away to one of you alongside a pattern from Hannah from Herb Garden Knitwear. So you can put, when you do knit one of her patterns, you can put it in here. Oh, it's just absolutely beautiful. I love this fabric. It's giving me autumn, maybe Christmassy vibes, so maybe this could be something you pull out in the winter. And it comes with, of course, a matching notions bag, and there's also a stitch marker that my mum has handmade as well, that's just on the end there. So you can use it as a stitch marker, you can use it as a zip pull, you can use it as a progress keeper, but this will be part of the giveaway. So there will be two winners for the giveaway. There will be obviously my corner set pattern to celebrate the release of the pattern, and then another little prize to say thank you for all my subscribers. I am so close to 4K now, which absolutely blows my mind. It doesn't compute that first of all, that there are that many people in the world that watch knitting podcasts, or there are that many people in the world that knit, because I mean, I only know one other person who knits in real life, and so I feel like we're quite a rare little group. So it blows my mind that there are that many people in the first place, but there are that many people who actually want to listen to what I've got to say, because honestly, most times when I film these podcasts, I feel like I'm talking absolute rubbish. So thank you for being part of my little knitting family, and hopefully by the next one we will have hit 4K, but it doesn't really matter if we haven't, I'll still do the giveaway. So yes, that's what's happening. It is going to happen, I promise. My husband and my son have just got home, so I need to wrap this up. One more quick thing is I'd like to mention a new designer that I have found. It's a smaller designer that you may or may not have heard of yet, but as we spoke about last week, I want to try and promote other designers that you might not have heard of yet. This design is certainly new to me. I haven't seen her work before. And thank you so much for all your suggestions. I've been thoroughly enjoying going through them all and checking them all out, and I've already found some wonderful new designers, but this one has particularly stood out to me this week, and I'm really excited about her designs. She mainly does accessories, socks, shawls, cowls, and her name is Lindsay Fowler. I will insert some pictures here. Yeah, here for you guys. There's a pair of socks, I think they're called the Hibernation Home Socks, which I think she designed during lockdown, and they just look so cozy and yummy and snuggy. And I've definitely I got a bit socked out after the corner set pattern design process, and I've had a little break from knitting socks, but I'm looking forward to, when the weather turns, casting on these socks and making myself some lovely snuggy socks to wear at home. So have a little look at Lindsay Fowler. Her patterns are lovely. If you're an accessory knitter and you haven't heard of her before, I would be honestly shocked if you didn't look at her designs and think, wow. Another designer I'd just like to mention to you guys, she's more of a garment designer, was suggested in the comments, and she is Danish, and I think you say her name Rika or Rika, and her designs are absolutely gorgeous. If you go to her Instagram, which I will link, and to her website, you can If you're not Danish speaking, you can put a filter on the search on her website to bring up all the English patterns. And there is a lace mohair jumper called the Vlad sweater, I believe. And when I saw it, I was like, yes, that's for me. Oh my gosh. And I'm tempted to use this for that sweater, but I want to use it held with this as intended. So that sweater is definitely going on my list. I just need to find the right mohair for it. So those are 2 designers for you to have a little look at. As last time, please share your favourite smaller, lesser known designers so that we can give them the exposure they deserve. Not that, not that I can tell that many people about it, but if I can do my bit, I will. Thank you as always for watching. I really enjoyed this one. I was a little bit worried because it's so hot and I was worried that it wouldn't be very nice to do, but I've actually really enjoyed sitting down and chatting with you guys today. As always, let me know in the comments below what's been tickling your knitting pickle. Give me your designer suggestions, and I would really love it if you gave this video a like as well. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!